Hello. Today we'll be breaking down and analysing the cartoon Hi Peggy, Hi Joan, illustrated by cartoonist Liza Donnelly.
We will be breaking down the symbolism and purpose of both images and text and dissecting the debatable issue.
We will talk about 5 main topics which we believe to fully capture the entirety of the cartoon. These are artist technique, in which we will talk about the way Donnelly depicted the cartoon, body language, where we'll point out interesting things which can be inferred by referring to the character's positioning, appearance of the people in the cartoon and what it symbolises, thoughts and speech that are in the comic as text boxes and thought bubbles, and finally, at the end, we'll mention the debatable issues, artist purpose and human techniques. Let's get right into it.
This comic was created by worldwide acknowledged New York cartoonist Liza Donnelly. In her cartoons, you can find a lot of interesting topics which are not usually talked about. This time, it's feminism in terms of women relations. She usually uses humor in her cartoons to advocate women's rights and freedom of speech. This time, the cartoon isn't made just by Donnelly herself, but it's inspired by American TV show Mad Men. It tells the story of an advertisement agency in the 1970s. It even received an Emmy Award for first 4 seasons out of 7.
At first inspection, it is evident that Donnelly used the background, or lack of thereof, to create distance between the two women. The fact that she chose to omit the background gives the situation ambiguity and allows the reader to focus on the two women rather than their setting. The whiteness of the background also juxtaposes the colour of the two women and allows the eye of the reader to easily distinguish the differences, like a spot the difference. The overall composition of the cartoon creates an open perspective of inclusion in the conversation without the situation seeming accusatory to the reader. Since both women aren't facing the viewer, it makes it feel as if the reader has just walked into a conversation, which in itself allows the cartoon to hold more unbiased opinion. Donnelly's simple but classic art style allows the two characters from Mad Men to be recognizable but not outlining caricatures, which allows the cartoon to hold more ambiguity so that a reader who is not aware of the Mad Men reference may be able to create their own meaning and experience the cartoon differently from one who has already watched the TV show. Moreover, at a closer inspection of the composition, it is easily noticed that Peggy is further away from the border, whereas Joan is closer. Although this might be just Donnelly's preference for the composition and layout, it can be analysed as Joan being more socially acceptable and therefore closer, whereas Peggy is more isolated and distant from her unseen co-workers outside of the cartoon's frame.
First thing you can clearly notice on these two women trapped in an uncomfortable scenario is their body language. Both of them have their eyes open as little as possible. For Joan, this underlines the fact that she's wearing mascara. Usually it means that they are judging the other person and they are not comfortable with the company. Joan is holding her bag in front of her legs. In a similar way, Peggy is holding these papers. It creates some sort of barrier. She feels uncomfortable in this stressed situation and she wants to protect herself. Standing up straight is a body language that they both share. It means that the person wants to be noticed, has some self-respect, and wants to be perceived as such.
Peggy's body language, when she's standing up straight, comes off as being prideful and confident in her own position and taking up space to communicate this to everyone else. Her clutching the papers also mirrors Joan's body language as she's trying to defend herself and create distance between each other. This may be due to the fact that Peggy doesn't want to be associated with the people like Joan, so she instinctively covers up her chest to shield herself from this uncomfortable situation. This is backed up by a stiff feet position, in which she's standing with them side by side, which is a clear sign of discomfort, as if she's ready to run away at any moment.
With women, there's a stereotype of judging how they dress, and in this cartoon, focusing on it is really crucial. For Joan, her clothing is exaggerated into pink and light orange. Pink is the stereotype for femininity. It also helps her stand out compared to Peggy. Everything fits together, and that makes her look prim and needless. The meaning behind the pink color is that it comes off as non-threatening and nurturing, since it's supposed to be a feminine color. Joan wears it because this is what she wants. She wants to be feminine, but powerful. She wants to be powerful without having to be a man or acting masculine. Her clothing is feminine, not only reliant on the color, but also the cut. It's conservative, but the color makes it look more attractive, since it hugs her chest and hips. Having just a bag, Joan looks less professional compared to Peggy. However, the rest of her accessories add to the feminine look which she is striving for. Pointy heels make her look taller, since men are usually taller than women. She is trying to be at their level, even if her height.
Once focusing on Peggy, it's easier to spot the difference between her and Joan. Firstly, we can mention the cropped brown hairstyle, which vaguely resembles that of a man, due to their short nature. This masculine look might stem from the fact that she's trying to fit into the workplace by presenting as masculine, as she believes that it would help her advance in the workplace, which, just like Peggy from Mad Men, always happened to be. Very assertive, which in the 1960s was unheard of in a woman. Her plain and serious attitude is also highlighted by her short hair, as short hair is usually compared and assimilated to being independent and headstrong. However, her plain hairstyle is unremarkable, really, resting there, and would be overlooked in an average setting. Perhaps that's what she's going for. Furthermore, another point of comparison in the appearance of Peggy compared to Joan is that her heels, although the same length, are different shape. This may symbolise how they both had the same social status in the workplace, whether this is due to their gender or role. But the flat heel may also symbolise her feeling of inferiority, as even though they're the same length, she's still trying to make them appear shorter. Overall, through her shoes, she is making a statement as to show that she does not care how people would compare her to Joan. Lastly, another point to mention regarding Peggy's appearance is of course her grey dress. Funnily enough, her dress is actually slightly shorter than Joan's, which is truly ironic, since Joan is supposed to be coming off as a slut. The hues of the dress, as well as a long sleeve, come off as conservative, which in a man's workplace may be seen as prudish, since it completely covers up her cleavage. This idea that women always have to look their best is a concept that Donnelly extracted from the media, where there's often the portrayal of slutty office women. This concealing of skin may also be picked up as an insecurity by a reader, but due to the illusion knowledge which we have on the cartoon, we're able to infer that she is actually being confident, as she believes that she could advance in a male-centered workplace without relying on showing her skin or trying to appear to be sexually appealing for her to be taken seriously.
Now to analyze their actual speech and thoughts that are expressed in the cartoon. 4 words used by Joan. Ambitious slut. This phrase is commenting on the appearance, but Peggy does not have the appearance for which you could use the word slut. This insult is mostly male frequented, but here it not only sounds feminine, but also is used between women. There is a difference between their speech and thoughts. It has a similar structure, greeting, comma, name, and a period, but the main difference is that she's not taking out her anger directly and only thinks about the insult that she would use.
In the speech bubble, Peggy is greeting Joan by her first name. This indicates a similar standing in the hierarchy of the workplace and might even seem like a sign of an amiable relationship between the two women, which is dramatic irony since we can clearly see the thought bubble which reveals the true intentions. The comma in her speech is also interesting to pick out since it indicates a pause or hesitation, which, without contextual knowledge from the picture, might seem insignificant, but clearly shows the resentment Peggy has towards Joan. The fact that the sentence structure is mirrored by Joan supports the idea that they both think similarly of each other, badly. The usage of the insult, misguided bitch, is a slanderous comment which juxtaposes the professional work setting. Moreover, it seems as if Peggy is projecting her own personality onto Joan, since it will be argued that she is being misguided into believing that by acting more masculine, she will succeed more than by appearing feminine. This is also justified by a usage of bitch, which is a male-frequented derogatory term.
There are quite a lot of debatable issues in this cartoon. One of them is women's competition in the male-dominated environment. They are going against each other and ruining their relationship just because of their competitiveness. This suggests the lack of female solidarity. Women are taught to act upon their sisterhood, or act upon women in general.
Another debatable issue is the appearance and presenting of women in the workplace. Here, Donnelly wanted to directly criticise what is considered appropriate and how the importance on their behaviour is pressed onto women. Lastly, another debatable issue is the idea of being fake, such as why women were thought to be two-faced in order to be perceived as professional and avoid conflicts, especially in the workplace. Now, we'll be talking about the Mad Men reference in the Donnelly cartoon. Joan, in this particular scene, reprimands Peggy for firing a subordinate instead of dealing him with a more gentle or feminine way. She comments on her bad strategy and reminds her that it's a man's world. Obviously, Peggy in the Mad Men is Peggy in the cartoon. And she is seen to be defending Joan from the insult she received by a sexist subordinate, but is unaware that Joan fears of the consequences for causing the firing of a male colleague. This, in part, angers Peggy. This may be due to the fact that Peggy doesn't want Joan to be fearing of men, as she believes that men and women should be equal in the workplace, which is contradictory since Peggy is also at the same time trying to appear more masculine. The elevator scene from Mad Men is one of the most dramatic moments between Joan and Peggy, caused by the two of them being one of the few women working in the office. Donnelly's cartoon accurately reflects the inner thoughts of the two women, as they were expected to keep up a front in order to be perceived in a way that wouldn't hinder their work at the company.
For Donnelly's purpose to drawing this cartoon, we chose three main purposes: to touch the audience, to comment on female competition, and unbiased point of view. The targeted audience she wanted to touch are competitive women who try to live up to male validation, and Donnelly tries to remind these women that male validation shouldn't be the most important thing. She points this out because it's not a regular topic. She starts this kind of conversation, how women can suffer in these situations. Donnelly remains a normal point of view, except for exaggerating Joan's clothing with a lot of saturated colors and very put together overall look. The rest is
uses many techniques in order to bring about humour, one of which is the meta-irony, or more commonly known as ironic events taking place in an ironic setting. The contradicting thoughts that the two women share the criteria, as not only are they saying insults which apply to themselves to someone else, but they are also portrayed in a way which contradicts their thoughts. There's also graphic hyperbole between the way they are dressed, which, by showing how Joan is dressed completely pink and Peggy is dressed completely grey, is exaggerating the opposite sides of the female-male spectrum. The conflict also adds to this cartoon, seeing women being pitted against each other in a heightened situation whilst appearing friendly, like co-workers, is humorous.
As a concluding statement, we both recognize the multiple aspects of this cartoon, which makes it controversial and depict the way women perceive and communicate how they see each other. We are also able to take into account the allusion from Mad Men, which gives the cartoon further context, and appreciate how Donnelly acknowledged how not everyone would be able to make this distinction, but still chose to include the names Peggy and Joan.
Thank you for listening. Hello. Today we'll be breaking down and analysing the cartoon Hi Peggy, Hi Joan, illustrated by cartoonist Liza Donnelly.
We will be breaking down the symbolism and purpose of both images and text and dissecting the debatable issue.
We will talk about 5 main